we've talked a lot, or at least brought up draft guidances quite a bit. And so I want to make sure we cover them a little bit right now. So as we know, several draft guidances were released in 2024 by the FDA that are likely to impact cell and gene therapy regulations in the US in 2025. And those are everything from safety testing of human allogeneic cells expanded for use in cell-based medical products, the considerations for the use of human and animal-derived materials in the manufacture of cellular and gene therapy and tissue-engineered medical products. And so, you know, and on and on and on. And Kim, so perhaps we can keep you here, and then we certainly want to hear from Bambi too. But, you know, how might we see the 2024 draft guidances take shape in 2025?
So obviously, FDA's goal is to finalize a guidance within 1 year of releasing the draft. I really actually would like to know the rate of success of that. I've never really looked at it, but we know, for example, some that were released in 2023 are still pending. Potency assurance for cell and gene therapy, and comparability for cell and gene therapy. So they remain to be finalized. So, you know, the process is that FDA looks at the comments that were received from the public docket and consider whether they will make changes to the guidance or not. So I'm not, you know, so I really don't have a crystal ball to say how much that I expect for these to change. I know there definitely were a lot of comments on potency assurance and comparability. I've actually seen some signs in, you know, personal consulting experience that perhaps the stance on some aspects of comparability may be softening a little bit. So there may be some changes coming from that guidance when that is finalized. I've mentioned several times also that there have been on the 2025 guidance agenda. I'm very interested actually in seeing what's going to come out of these guidances, because there are some really hot topics: accelerated approval for cell and gene therapy, the platform technology that I mentioned. Also a specific potency assessment for therapeutic vaccines is a topic, and also related to accelerated approval, post-approval methods to capture safety and efficacy data for cell and gene therapy products. So these are really interesting topics that I hope they're able to get these guidances out soon. They'll definitely help. Again, these will be draft guidances when they're issued. So,
well, sure, yeah. Yeah, sure, but they are always extremely, you know, our readers certainly, and certainly the sector at large, are always, you know, grasping at them as soon as they come out. So, but Bambi, certainly I would like to hear from you too of how what are your thoughts on how the 2024 draft guidances may take shape this year?
Well, I agree with Kim about what's likely to happen with the 2024s. I mean, we did have a pretty high number of guidance documents in 2024, which is nice. And I think if you look at the history of guidance documents in our field, the first one was released in 1998. And then there was a gap of almost 10 years before we saw the next draft guidance come out in our field. But since then, there's been a pretty steady stream. And I looked back over the numbers, Kim, just to kind of get a feel for, I was hoping that what I would see is that every year there were more guidance documents coming out, but that's not actually what happened. The highest number was 2020 when we had 7, and last year we had 5. But I think that what's interesting about them is, and I mentioned this earlier, that the number of times they cross-reference each other, and the fact that these draft guidance documents are really kind of being knit together to provide sort of the net that we work in, where we understand what we're trying to achieve. And you know, I think it would be really a shame if we were to step away from having guidance documents, because I think that you can read regulations and 5 people could tell you what a regulation means, and it could play out entirely differently. And, you know, one of the things I tell all of my new regulatory people is that when you read the regs, the difference between should, may, and must is something that you have to circle back to absolutely constantly, and don't consider those the same word. But that's just a little micro picture of what the regulations allow for. They allow for a lot of different implementations. And when we want to say that products are reaching the same bar, I think we really need guidance documents to say this is how the regulators are currently interpreting this data and this knowledge, and this is what our gold standard is built on the regulations. This is where we want you to be. And I think that if we don't end up with more guidance documents, then it would really be a shame. And personally, I'm hoping that some of the new guidance documents we'll see will be even more in the weeds about the different technologies, maybe getting into NK cells or TCR, modified T cells or something like that. I think that getting into the science is really, really important. And I think that this year's guidance document that was about CAR T cells was really important to the field. So I think that that's where guidance documents are really important to us. And really, it would be a shame if we didn't keep pushing forward with them.